Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the Japanese consumption tax invoice system, which will come into effect in October 2023. Just for your reference, this webinar will be recorded. My name is Kim, and a tax compliance manager at TBA Accountants. And today, I'm thrilled to share important information about this upcoming tax system with all of you.
Hello, I'm Victoria, also a tax compliance manager at TBA Accountants. As Kim mentioned, starting from October 2023, Japanese consumers will experience a new taxation change when purchasing goods, both online and in-store. B2B consumption tax can only be deducted with the JCT invoice numbers on the invoices and receipts. Okay, for starter, let's have a look of who has an obligation to pay consumption tax in Japan. Not all overseas sellers are subject to file and pay for JCT. First, let's have a look of the graph on the slide together. Here I'm going to introduce the concept of base period, which is used to understand the time relationship of your taxable sales. The base period, or you can understand it as base year, refers to the 2 accounting or fiscal years preceding the current tax year. The first base year is 2 years prior to the current accounting year, and the second base year is 1 year prior to the current accounting year. Your business is only considered a taxable entity in Japan if it is in any of the following situations. Situation 1, this is the most common situation we see, which is that your taxable sales during the first base year exceeds 10 million Japanese yen. Or if your taxable sales during the first base year does not exceed the 10 million Japanese yen threshold, but your taxable sales in the first half of the second base year exceeds 10 million Japanese yen, you fit into this kind of situation. Unlike the previous 2 situations, the third situation is not related to the amount of your taxable sales. If your registered capital is more than 10 million Japanese yen, you will be obliged to do the JCT filing from the fiscal year followed the year of your business incorporation. There is also one additional situation which will trigger your JCT obligation, which is by acquiring the JCT invoice number. Even if neither your taxable sales or your registered capital exceeds the 10 million Japanese yen threshold, you will have the obligation to submit JCT filing with JCT invoice number. This means that you do not have to meet the above mentioned 3 taxable conditions to register for your own JCT invoice number. You can become a taxable entity voluntarily to enjoy the benefits the JCT invoice number can potentially bring you after October 2023. If you're unsure whether your business is obligated to pay JCT or not, or if you're unsure if your business may benefit from acquiring the JCT invoice number, welcome to contact our JCT team via the information below. My colleagues and I will be very happy to assist you.
Thank you very much, Victoria. It's really important to understand first the obligation. And now, after determining a bit about if you have obligation or not to pay JCT, let's now dive into the JCT registration process. To register for JCT, you need several documents, including the proof of legal entity identity, business license, platform store proof, and then you will need to fill up a JCT registration form and also a notarization agent form to complete the application. Of course, it is advisable to engage with a reliable tax agent like us, TBA Accountants, once you have gathered all these required documents. Our experienced team will submit your JCT application information to the Japanese National Tax Agency, and after receiving your JCT invoice number, you will need to upload it on your e-commerce platform.
Thank you, King, on the registration process. And let's now have a look of the Japanese consumption tax filing and payment deadlines. So in most cases, JCT is reported annually. For companies, the deadline for JCT filing submission is 2 months after the end of the tax period. For sole traders, on the other hand, the deadline is until March 31st of the following year. You must submit the final JCT tax return to Japanese tax authority and pay the total consumption tax amount indicated on the tax return. Failure to pay taxes by the deadline will result in a late payment penalty called surcharge. This surcharge ranges from 2.5 to 8.8% of the outstanding amounts, depending on the number of days between the statutory payment deadline and the actual payment date.
Thank you, Victoria. That's really helpful. So now let's speak about a little bit about the benefits to registering for JCT as a seller. So firstly, registering for JCT ensures tax compliance and account security. Sellers with JCT tax obligations need to apply for a JCT registration number and issue compliant invoices for corporate buyers who require tax deduction. Registration and declaration of JCT become necessary conditions for seller to operate in compliance in this case. Secondly, registered JCT allows sellers to issue compliant invoices, ensuring competitiveness in the corporate orders. This means that after the compliant invoice retention system comes into effect, October 2023, enterprises with tax deduction may be preferred because they are able to issue these compliant invoices with JCT registration numbers. Therefore, for Amazon Japan sellers, it has become more important and even more urgent to apply for a JCT registration number before the new regulations take into effect in order to qualify for issuing these JCT compliant invoices. Thirdly, registering for JCT enables customs clearance and tax rebates in compliance, reducing the pressure on corporate cash flow. What does this mean? That after you become JCT compliant, sellers can declare to the Japanese Tax Bureau through JCT to offset the input consumption tax paid during import custom clearance. This will result in more refunds and less financial strain in the company. Furthermore, registered JCT allows sellers to apply for exclusive support and exposure on Amazon Enterprise Shopping. This means that by registering for JCT, you can immediately apply for exclusive support exposure page of Amazon Enterprise Shopping, which provides extra traffic support and increases ASIN sales. If you have a JCT registration number, set a corporate price or a 5% volume discount rate, maintain sufficient inventory, and have a score above 3.5, you can submit up to 50 ASINs that need exposure through your account manager.
Thank you very much, Kim, for introducing the advantage of getting the JCT invoice number. And now let's all have a look of how JCT is calculated. So in general, there are two different ways of calculating JCT return. Respectively, they are standard method and simplified calculation method. Let's get started with the latter, simplified calculation method. To put it in a simple way, simplified calculation methods can result in the reduction of tax declaration burden for small and medium-sized companies. In simplified calculation methods, the consumption tax is calculated based on the recognized purchase rate, which is lower than the standard rate. To apply for the simplified calculation method, a taxpayer must fit into the following two conditions. Condition 1, tax sales during the best periods should be less than 50 million yen. And condition 2, it is necessary to submit the consumption tax simplified taxation system election filing form to the local tax bureau in the designated timeframe. Once a taxpayer chooses to go with simplified calculation method, they will have to stick to this method to calculate their JCT return for at least 2 years and can only switch back to the standard methods afterwards. As it may sound a little bit complex, let's have a look at the following example together. Say, for instance, if Kim started her e-commerce business in Japan since 2021, Kim will have to check her sale in 2021 and 2022 to see if she is eligible for the simplified calculation method. If in this period, Kim's taxable sales is less than 15 million yen, she can apply to go with simplified calculation methods for her Japanese consumption tax. Before December 31st, 2023, King can ask her tax provider to submit her consumption tax simplified taxation system election filing form to the National Tax Agency of Japan, so that the consumption tax will be calculated with the simplified method in 2023. Additionally, it is important to note that instead of using receipts for input deduction, like what usually happens in standard calculation method, in a simplified method, enterprises can declare based on a predetermined purchase rate. Japanese tax authority sets different purchase rates for different business categories. Cross-border e-commerce sellers belong to the retail industry, and the deemed purchase rate is 80%. There are many advantages of choosing simplified calculation method. For instance, it reduces the tax filing burden and can result in tax saving due to the difference in tax calculation compared to the standard way of calculation. To have a more thorough understanding of this tax-saving mechanism for small and medium businesses, let's check out the difference in the final tax amounts under the two different taxation systems in this specific case.
Exactly, Victoria. This seems all complicated, so let's try to make it more simple with an example. So, Company A, in scenario X, has a taxable income of 10 million yen, an output consumption tax of 1 million yen, and an actual input consumption tax expenses of 700,000 yen in the current year. Under the standard taxation system, the consumption tax payment would be 100 minus 70 equal 300,000 yen. Under the simplified taxation system instead, the consumption tax payment would be 100 minus 100 per 80% equal 200,000 yen. In this case, choosing the simplified taxation system would result in tax savings of 100,000 yen. Wow. However, it's important to note that if the actual input consumption tax expenses exceeds 800,000 yen instead, the standard taxation system would save more tax compared to the simplified taxation system. Furthermore, it's really important to remember that once you choose a declaration method, you cannot change it within 2 years. When opting for the simplified tax collection system, you need to know the company's certified purchase rate in advance and estimate the actual income to purchase ratio in recent years to make a reasonable choice that maximizes benefits. Overall, just for your reference, the tax bureau defaults to the standard declaration method for all sellers. If a seller meets the conditions for a simple taxation system, they can apply for it to the tax bureau through a tax representative in advance, like us, TBA accountants. The standard declaration formula is as follows. When a seller makes a standard declaration to the tax bureau, before we spoke about the simplified one, the Japanese consumption tax payable is calculated by subtracting the current input Japanese consumption tax from the current output Japanese consumption tax. We recommend that sellers keep input Japanese consumption tax invoices to apply for tax deduction. In addition, local purchases in Japan, Amazon's FBA fees and taxes, except commissions, advertising fees, and other related taxes, can be credited if there are compliant invoices.
So when should the declaration be made, and how long is the JCT declaration period in Japan? The declaration of consumption tax in Japan is an annual report and needs to be filed once. The filing deadline is within the 2 months of the tax deadline, February 28th. From the next year, a mid-term declaration and a tax payment system will be implemented based on the sales tax amount and of the period's tax period. This means that in the second year, there may be 1, 3, or 11 intermediate declarations. in addition to an annual report deduction. However, please note that Amazon commissions and advertising fee cannot be deducted.
That's great. Thank you, Victoria. So I hope this concludes today's webinar. We hope all the information provided has been clear and insightful. We will be available now. We will double check the questions that you may have. If by any chance we are not able to answer all of them, do not hesitate to reach us under this using these contacts that are shown now. And let's now check the questions that you have been asking in the chat box. Let's see. So the first question is coming from Dragos, that is asking, what if we import goods into Japan? Do we need to register for JCT invoice number? Well, in this case, it may not be compulsory if you don't reach the threshold of 10 million yen. However, as we referred during the benefits part of the presentation, it may be beneficial for you in order to have a tax deduction. And
more questions.
Yeah. And then the second question, Victoria.
Okay. I think I noticed there was one audience asking about like the lead time for the registration. So basically, in average, it takes around 8 to 10 weeks for like the application to stay in the Japanese tax authority before the JCT invoice number is received. But of course, we can anticipate like a surge in application maybe right before October 23, just amid the a new regulation. So we will recommend you to apply for the JCT invoice number as soon as possible.
That's great. Thank you, Victoria. Now we have also Abrar that is asking, if we are a US-based company and selling GP Amazon, are we required for a JCT number? So there are always the main conditions that if you are reaching the threshold, or in any case, if you're selling on Amazon, especially if you're selling on Amazon, right, Victoria, it's really beneficial for you to register for JCT in order to be able to provide compliant invoices, so that you are beneficial because they might beneficial for who wanna buy for you, because they will be able to for tax deduction, especially after this invoice system will come into effect after October. And of course, also on Amazon itself, there are many benefits in registering for JCT as the full exposure of your goods.
I think in like the chat box, I also saw this question on do we need to register our company in Japan to get the JCT number? And the answer is no, like you do not have to be registered in Japan in advance to get the JCT number.
Amazing. Here we have also Abrar that is also asking, if the company is not registering in Japan, how can I apply for the JCT number? So, well, you contact us, TBA accountant, or relevant agent that you're sure that can assist you. And then our team will be more than happy to assist you in providing you more information regarding the documents needed and also regarding the whole process. I believe there is still one question, Victoria.
A bit more about registering.
There is Michael that is asking, can you explain a bit more about why registering JCT number can reduce the cash flow, the pressure on the cash flow? Yeah.
So basically, after October 2023, all the B2B tax deduction can only happen with the JCT invoice number. So if your company is making any purchase, or maybe you are selling to any business buyers, the business buyers, they can only enjoy the deduction with the JCT invoice number. So they will have like a huge preference on those sellers with the number, especially on Amazon.
Okay. Then another question is coming from Mariana that is asking, hi, which item can apply for input deduction? Thanks for the webinar. Thank you for appreciating the webinar, Mariana. And basically, input is related to customs. So when you do the custom process, you will be paying some input tax. And if you have the JCT number, you will be able to deduct this input tax from the output tax that you pay to tax authority, to the tax agency in Japan. That is the reason why it is beneficial. So, and input is related to the import. And also there is
another one
from Shui. That just saw our offer for VAT services, and she's asking which countries do you serve? Do you have a bundle price if you sell in multiple countries? So that's really a good question, Shui. So basically, I'm pleased to confirm that apart from Japan, we offer several EU countries. Most all of them we offer VAT and EPR services too. And we also offer EU responsible person compliance services. And if you are thinking about selling outside the EU or Japan, we also offer services for now US, Mexico, and UAE. As always, if you are interested to know more, don't hesitate to contact us further. And yeah, another question from Dragos, that Victoria, he's asking if the GST number, it needs to be when it is released, it needs to be used right away.
The answer is no, if you're answering from May 2023, because this number is only going to be valid after October 2023. So you don't really have to activate this number, but you can input it on your Amazon portal to make sure that when like the policy is active and your buyers, they can have like the invoice number on their invoices.
And now we have Jose asking regarding his situation, because they are exporting products from USA and Mexico to Japan, and is asking he needs to wait until reaching the threshold to apply for JCT. So if you are importing, we recommend, especially as this new taxation system will come into effect, to register in any case. So in order to receive to be able to apply for this tax reduction, like basically be able to deduct the input tax that you pay for the import, to be able to deduct it to the out sales that you will do into Japan. Mm-hmm. So we do recommend it even in this case. And then there is Michael that has another question, Victoria. What JCT related services do you provide?
So apart from registering for JCT invoice number and do the JCT filing, if you have any tax filing in the past, we can also do backdating for you.
Okay, there is Mariana that is asking her case. She's mentioning that her sales during the year are less than 40 million yen. And she's asking if she needs to register for JCT. In this case, the reply is quite straightforward. Yes, because you have, in any case, you have application to register and you have went over the threshold of 10 million yen. So yes, you will need to register. Oh, thank you, Dragos. We really appreciate your positive feedback. And that's what we like to hear. And we really do our utmost effort to give our best service. Thank you, Shui. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending this webinar. We have reached the end of it. Thank you, Dragos, and thank you everyone for attending. We hope that knowledge and insights shared with you will be valuable for you. And to stay informed for the upcoming webinars and for more information regarding our services, do not hesitate to contact us or keep an eye on our services, on our contact pages. Stay tuned and have a nice weekend, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.